Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 73. All articles and videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Look for News Recap 122. Quick summary of things I'll be going over today. So talk briefly about the Metaverse Nomads interview with CEO Michael Wagner of Star Atlas. Some thoughts on the DAO, update on or recap on the Atlas brew that occurred, and then I'll do my two segments, kind of my thoughts on the state of Star Atlas and kind of my journey in playing Star Atlas. But before I get into that, just two things that I'm working on. One is my merch store, Star Atlas merch store. It's at intergalacticgear.com. It is officially open for business. I actually, since last podcast, I have tweaked a little things, made it a little more organized. So right now I have one product line available, some different mugs that are available for purchase, colors, style of mugs, logos on those. So you can go again to intergalacticgear.com and purchase a mug. I'm only shipping to the United States presently, so apologize for other community members that are outside the United States, but lots of issues with taxes and things like that I just start small and grow from there. But if you're not interested in purchasing, but you would like to see some other things, I do have a merch survey on the homepage, again, intergalacticgear.com. Please fill that out, and that'll help me with some guidance on other items you guys may like to. I'm going to start working on, I think, posters next, actually. And then secondly, I am interested in starting a both non-guild guild. I guess Star Atlas is calling them DACs, Distributed Autonomous Corporations. But basically, what I'm looking for is a community platform that people who aren't going to join a guild, don't find the Star Atlas Discord maybe the best place to share their thoughts and ideas, don't have all the time, and so would prefer to have more about threaded discussions and the ability to get maybe an email alert when there's something new that you might be interested in. So kind of, again, more of a community, but we'll call it a guild too, whatever. Call it Intergalactic Coalition. So you can go to intergalacticcoalition.com. I do have an interest survey and talk a little bit more about some of my ideas. It is going to be a paid community, but that's only to help offset the cost of the software in order to run that. So again, please go to intergalacticcoalition.com if that's something you'd be interested in. So let's go ahead and get into the bulk of the content. As people have listened to this past, you may already know, I typically wait till Friday night to kind of catch up on Star Atlas, just not a lot of time during the week with my business, family, things like that. Now it's summer and seems even busier. Maybe it's just hot and you just want to watch TV, whatever. So everything's kind of in the past, hence the week in review. So some of this is actually feels really in the past, but it's only been a week. But last Sunday, the Metaverse Nomads do their regular weekly chat, and not, I guess, typically, but a lot of times they have different guests on there, and they were able to have the CEO of Star Atlas, Michael Wagner, on, and had a very free-flow conversation, things like that. So this was sort of his, I'm not sure if he gave definitely not any other community interviews since the town hall. And so I think it was a really great chat. Michael Wagner clarified lots of different things from the town hall, briefly addressed kind of how the sentiment was from that. So I think it was a really great chat. He did talk about refine some of the upcoming aspects of Star Atlas. So I think it's, great companion piece to the town hall. So if you're kind of interested, definitely have a listen to that. A couple of things I wanted to highlight that he mentioned. One was the Crew app, which many people had mentioned, myself included, that, we didn't hear anything about that at the town hall. He did mention why it was delayed, and it's basically because the blockchain engineers are working on higher priority issues. And as we know, the team is smaller, and so the different resources that are available, such as the blockchain team members, are there. So, and when that information wasn't shared at the town, Crew app itself wasn't shared at the town hall, but that information actually kind of makes a lot of sense, especially knowing that as a blockchain game, the blockchain engineers are required on almost every aspect of the game. So I think that made a lot of sense why we didn't hear about it, or why we didn't know anything more about the Crew app, but also why it was delayed. But I have to admit, overall, I think it was just great to hear Michael Wagner talk. And again, I don't know if the town hall, maybe it's more structured. Again, I've heard lots of his interviews. They've all been actually really good. But my big takeaway from that interview was, I guess, a great reminder again about the vision of Star Atlas and how the team does intend to continue development. So it just was, it was really good. much better listening to that than I was the town hall, to be completely honest. It was a great one. It was a kind of quiet week for different StarOS content creators. Both Beyond the Horizon and Metaverse Explorer did come out with videos. They were giving their thoughts on the DAO. And again, kind of like I was saying about kind of things seen in the past, yeah, the DAO seems to have already receded. Voting, I think, closes in a couple days, and that might be part of it, that people got all their thoughts out, and definitely seemed like sentiment of moving forward with yes votes for the couple of the proposals. So if you want to learn more about the DAO in general and some information on the proposals, I would reference both Beyond the Horizon and Metaverse Explorer's videos. Again, if you go to intergalacticherald.com, look for news recap number 122. I have links to both of those. As is tradition, the Atlas Brew from the StarOS community team occurred this past week. They did a review of the roadmap changes, pretty much going through the roadmap, which again is online in a link. Actually, I don't have that in the recap, but I don't know where to point you to do that. I guess I would tell you to do a Google search, but I don't know if it'll come up. I don't know where a link is. Probably in the Discord under the link section, I guess. Anyways, maybe should add that to my website. Anyways, so that was fine. It was what it was. I mean, it just hard to, I don't know. Maybe I was just tired too with the heat. It just was hard to follow. And I guess probably more, it's just, I think I said this last time, it's just moving around different tasks. It doesn't change anything. We don't know what's coming next. We'll sure come out. So again, it was great to share, but hard to get excited about, I guess, to be blunt. But one little tidbit that was interesting, somebody did ask, was about the Zealy Quest, the Never Alone, which has been ongoing for quite a while. I think a while back I did hear from someone at one of the Atlas Brews that the original team was like a dozen or more, and now it's just basically the community team. But they did clarify one reason it's actually pretty much on hold is due to work by the team on other things, so I don't know which part of the team. But then they mentioned that they do need, quote, engineering help to finish it. So again, that could be the blockchain. And again, if we go back to what I just mentioned about the Crew app, yeah, it's now all starting to seem that the blockchain engineers or engineers in general are the bottlenecks. But again, I don't consider that. I think that's just a reality of the team size. So it doesn't actually feel like, ooh, that's not there. Zealy, as was mentioned, the Never Alone Quest came out before the layoff. So again, it was designed and prior to lots of changes. So it's fine. And again, it sounds like, again, they will wrap it up at some point. It's just they don't have the team to develop. And maybe, again, it's graphics, it's the NFTs or SFT, whatever. The things we'll get in our wallets and things like that. So that made sense. The other interesting thing, and again, I guess this has been kind of an ongoing looking for little tidbits about the Crew app, Crew cards, because that wasn't specifically called out at the town hall. We're not going to give a date. And then they started talking more about changing to the UE5 focus and things like that. And we really hadn't heard much other than they wanted to do some marketing, which again, I've said, I don't see any marketing. So if I don't see the marketing, I don't think the Crew cards are coming out soon. So what was kind of spoken was that but it'll probably happen before Breakpoint. But again, the word probably was thrown in. So coming soon, sooner than you think. Yeah, that's not feeling right. So again, I think it's fine. It's understandable. They've expanded the scope with the graphics of all three factions. They want to do a marketing push. They want to make it a revenue generator. I mean, it does feel like one of the next major release short of the UE5 release season, whatever thing. So again, just another little thing that, in my opinion, I'm not holding my breath for a very short term. Now, again, team could come out and exceed expectations, but again, it sounds like they're going to polish it until they're happy. And again, at this point, yeah, you got to release it when you feel it's fully done. So anyway, so that's sort of kind of different things that occurred in the past week. If anything, I'll say it's been, again, a quiet week with the DAO kind of dropping off in engagement and really nothing much else. Maybe the DAO will pick up when we start having more discussions about the next two proposals, especially since I think the third one is about the council, which has obviously much more community impact, who's going to be on the console, how's all that work. So, and again, I don't have it in front of me, but they did publish kind of a time frame of each proposal and how long it's open for voting and things like that. So this feels like those kind of things will be rolling out in the next few months. But the DAO portion of it is I mean, it's related to the DAO, but it's not really the DAO. I mean, the council is people and elections and nominations and speeches and things like that. So anyways, so kind of moving on to then the kind of two things. First, my kind of ongoing thoughts on the state of Star Atlas. So kind of alluded to a little bit of this is, I guess, just in general about community outreach, and I guess I should clarify that. How is the team engaging the community, hence outreach? So like I said, the town hall, I mean, to me, it didn't really work. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't the best thing ever. It was just kind of a rush list of things and changes, but there was no announcement except maybe the DAO, but that was really just an announcement that next week there'd be a presentation, so no details. But the interview with Michael Wegner on Metaverse Nomads, to me, was such a better community outreach mechanism. I don't know, maybe it's just because the style Michael Wegner was just talking, asking questions, answering questions. I mean, he's very, very good at that. But I came away way more optimistic about the future of Star Atlas than I did from the town hall. Putting them together, I mean, I guess maybe if that interview wasn't, the town hall didn't occur in that interview, again. But yeah, so I mean, in the end, I guess nothing was really announced or changed, but in Michael Wegner's interview. But again, I don't know. I just felt much more wanting to get involved and stay in Star Atlas. I don't know. Maybe it was, again, just kind of, was it psychological or emotional, just like, highs, lows. I don't know. But anyways, it was really good. And maybe it was, again, just the thing because, at the town hall, they announced that they're changing the shooter gameplay, but on the Metaverse Nomads interview, they explained why they were changing it. That might have helped understand why. And anyway, I don't know. Again, these are just thoughts. This is all that was kind of going on. So, and in the end, it could just be the style of the event. That town halls, to me anyway, should be more about, immediate releases, kind of not announcements, launches or explanations of what's going to happen. And then maybe it comes out in a week. So again, example, instead of saying, hey, the DAO's coming and there's going to be a presentation on Monday, just give the presentation at the town hall, combine it into one event. But again, styles, I'm not criticizing the team for that. It's all about styles. But again, not much else to talk about this last week. So, and then one other thing about kind of the state of Star Atlas that kind of has become a little clear, at least in my mind, in the last couple of weeks, is how these product releases are occurring. And one thing that was interesting, so it's kind of a good and bad. I mean, the DAO was released, well, that's great, but it wasn't planned, and it sounded like an employee was basically just doing the work on their free time, which I mean is great. I mean, somebody's passionate and wants to work on their free time. I mean, no employer is going to say, oh, sorry, you can't work on something. But it kind of feels like the DAC too, where it's just the minimum viable product to allow for, in this case, voting, and that's it, because a lot of stuff had to be moved off chain. So again, I guess good, but I'm not sure. Again, crew cards definitely still delayed, even though we got maybe a little more of a hint of when it would come. And then I guess a lot about the product releases now, with definitely the browser part of Sage eventually going to go away. Faction fleets sticking around a little bit longer until the lending thing is coming, but we don't really have any sense of where that is. We're all kind of having to pivot and really realize that it's the UE5 version of the game, and now again it's the shooter component, but that one release, or working toward that one being a release for mainstream, where product codes go away. I'm not 100% sure of this, but I kind of wonder if part of the blockchain parts of the showroom maybe not as emphasized as much, because again, we were able to play that Surge test without having our own wallet. Yes, you still created a wallet inside the game. Definitely more talk about that release will have, training, or I guess tutorials and training modes, so people can find out what's there. So, I mean, all of this kind of makes sense. It all feels like on the right path. And you could even say it's all focused on this, so that kind of puts everybody into the same mindset. So I guess we'll just kind of wait and see when it comes out. Unlike, say, the Sage browser, crew cards, anything like that, those seems like they could roll out at other times. But UE5, at least historically, has always been about really major pushes of updating the code and putting in the Epic Store. So it doesn't sound like, they can release something that isn't pretty solid because you can't just immediately patch it like with a web switch. And maybe I'm wrong, but you got to download another 30 gigs. I've never seen a small patch in the past for that. It feels like it's downloading the whole game, which is fine. It's a different thing. But again, we've been used to the web type of updating with Sage and things like that. So again, it feels like what's kind of coming there. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things, but the update of the roadmap, definitely a lot more emphasis on the UE5 version. The browser game is now turning into a Fleet Command, which is on top of UE5. The browser Sage is going to go away. Fashion Fleet will go away. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with pivoting, but it feels more like that's just where we should be focused our attention, listening for different things on, what's coming out. Again, a lot of talk about Breakpoint being the coming out of that, which is a perfect opportunity especially with their conference/summit type of thing. So anyways, that's sort of thoughts on kind of properties. So final section, I'll just kind of go through my journey. So as people have been following along the podcast, I made a goal within Starbase to do some mining and learn the Sly Assistant. And so kind of going through the process of mining the raw materials. So I did complete the nitrogen one, and so did some calculations on that. So for those that are interested, I had to put in like 100,000 ammo, 200,000 food, 500,000 fuel, and 0.1 sol. So at the time of calculation, so I'm sure prices have changed, but at the time that was $10.49 worth of inputs, though $9.15 was the 0.1 sol. The outputs I got was 1,870 SDUs, and again, my goal was always somewhere around 1 million, so I got 1,041,000 and change of nitrogen. At the time of calculation, that total earning was $1.64. The SDUs were worth 38 cents, and the nitrogen was worth $1.25. So strangely, I scanned, I assume the same rate or time, because I don't know, maybe I scanned more. That's the thing. I just realized I never kind of calculated when I started and when I didn't, because again, when I have blockchain issues or the computer doesn't work or Sly Assistant doesn't work, I just fix it and restart it or whatever. So I guess I never start when do I start and whatever, because I guess there would have been the potential for more or less scanning. Well, anyways, found a lot less SDUs in this one. So the first one, I think it was copper ore, I found 3,280, but now only found 1,870. But on the other hand, still around 1 million nitrogen, that was worth $1.25, but the copper ore was only worth 18 cents. So again, was that just where the marketplace was? There is nitrogen not as supply demand, so not a lot of people are selling it, so there's not a lot of liquidity, and so the price goes up. I don't know, but there. So anyways, key point though is that was not a profitable return on investment of putting in $10.50 and getting out $1.64. So yeah, definitely this game loop, and again, I know it's unique to my ships. They're not optimized. Definitely I'm inefficient with moving too many resources and having to bring them all back, because I start with everything at the central space station and bring it all back. But yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. But I think I'm going to continue with the goal of mining the raw materials. But I think I'm going to stop the calculations because it just takes more time. My goal is to get 1 million. I know I'm spending money, I guess you could call it $10 to get back $1, but I'm hoping someday these resources all are nice to have around. But yeah, because we don't need them. I mean, there's no purpose for them at this point other than crafting, which will get you whatever it gets you. Again, I'm as I mentioned, I'm not really into the whole upkeep and upgrading the star bases, which is pretty much the major game loop I think people are in. So mining, transportation, scanning for SDUs, those all relate back to that. But nevertheless, I'm just going to stick with my goal of mining all these resources. So the next two I have on my list are silicate and luminite. They're actually at the same star base, so I really don't want to spend the time to move it all back to have a true comparison, meaning starting at a set point, go do the action, bring everything back. It really doesn't make any sense when I have everything set up. So I'm not going to do a calculation for that. I'll just move on and mine that. And in fact, the computer next to me is finally pulling back all the luminite. I already pulled back all the silicate. But like I said, I'm not going to really care about doing calculation. And then if I'm not mistaken, that leaves 2 final resources. And I think they're the ones that are in the farther out ones like diamond and something else. So those I think I might do a calculation on, but I can already kind of predict based on distance that the fuel costs will probably go up even higher. I think that's how it works. But again, I'll just continue with this plan. And then I am toying with the idea of briefly looking at the crafting loop. Realized my claim stakes, the stockpile I had for fuel, is diminished quite substantially to do all this mining. So what I might do is what I've heard lots of other people do. They basically mine hydrogen at the starbase and then craft it into fuel, and then they can sell the fuel. Since I'll have the fleets there and don't have to pay fuel to mine there, I might do a mining crafting loop just to wrap that up. And then I am tempted to do some experimentation with the upkeep and the upgrading. So pretty sure if I remember correctly, upkeep, you just add some food and then you get back some LP. So, might just pick a number, put some in and see what happens. And then on the upgrading, I think that's toolkits, and my toolkits from my claim stakes have never been touched because the mining, transportation, scanning loops don't use toolkits. So if there's some starbase that is in the process of being updated, maybe I'll take the transportation fleets and move some stuff out there and add it and just see what happens. But at this point, I haven't thought it through, but I think it might be interesting to experience those actions, but given the amount of time, physical time it would take to keep those supply chains working, because again, it does take a lot to do the mining, I'm just not interested in that. And even if it was profitable, which no guarantee it is, it's not, we're still in a couple cups of coffee things. So, I just don't have the fleets to justify this. I could take the fleets out of my bigger ships out of faction fleet, but they're earning some Atlas. So that makes me feel good for clicking a couple resupply buttons in the morning when I do all my claim stakes ones. So I guess thinking off the top of my head, but yeah, thinking finish the mining loops that I designed, test a crafting loop, test a upkeep and upgrading thing, and then potentially just pull everything back and dump everything back into faction fleet and be done with it and earn my couple hundred extra Atlas each day or each week. So anyways, I'm rambling at that point. I started just thinking off the top of my head. So so thanks for listening to all that. Hope you found that interesting. Again, if you're interested in any of the links or videos or links to any of the videos or articles mentioned, please go to intergalacticherald.com. Look for news recap number 122. If you're interested in purchasing any Star Atlas merch, in this case, a mug or types of mugs, again, I guess there are 3 types of ceramic mugs, different colors, white with logo, black with logo, and then white with black inside. I know, clever. Different logos from basically the Star Atlas logo and the faction logos. Please go to intergalacticgear.com. I do even have special intergalactic gear colored mugs. Oh, and there's actual an enamel mug too. So anyways, if you're interested in a Star Atlas mug, definitely please go check that out. If not, please check it out anyways and fill out my merch survey, and that'll help me decide on some other merch to start. And then if you're interested in hanging out and chatting with other Star Atlas gamers who aren't members of guilds and don't want to hang out in the Star Atlas official Discord, I am hoping to build a community for the rest of us that we can chat, do it a little more asynchronously, get alerts when they are, just read threaded discussions as opposed to free flow chat. Please go to Intergalactic Coalition and fill out the interest survey there. And that's about it. Thanks for listening to my week in review of Star Atlas. This is Matt with Intergalactic Herald. Hope you have a great week ahead.